Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. With God's name, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer. Praise belongs to God, the Lord, the cherisher and sustainer of all worlds and all systems of knowledge. I bear witness there is no God worthy of worship besides Allah, and Allah alone. He is without partners in the rule of the heavens and the earth. And I bear witness that Muhammad, to whom the Quran is his servant and his messenger, and he is described in the Quran as Khatam al-Nabiyyin, the seal of the prophets, and he's also described as one who has been sent with mercy and grace for humanity. Ramadan Mubarak. We have entered now into the 11th day of Ramadan. We've entered into that part of Ramadan, the second 10 days, which is the Prophet ﷺ said that this is the 10 days where we should experience the forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah is pardoning the sins of people. And we pray Allah that we be among those whose sins are pardoned and lifted from our lives. We want to begin here by giving you a sort of a scope and a sequence of Juz 11, and it begins with Sura al Tawbah, beginning at ayat 93 to the end of that surah, and it goes through the whole surah 10 of Yunus, that's Jonah, and it ends with Surah 11 Hud, from ayat 1 through 5. So let's begin. The Juz begins with the final quarter of Tawbah, repentance, in which Allah continues to describe the good character of the righteous. We want to pay particular attention to how Allah, the Most High, our Creator, describes character, what good character is, because we want to be able to learn what God is teaching us and what He's encouraging us to become as human beings as relate to our character, that we can begin to implement these virtues and these qualities that the Creator is describing in the Quran in our lives. It also confirms that His good pleasure is with the righteous, people with good character, the righteous people, His pleasure. He is pleased with people who are righteous and who develop in themselves good character and who partake in the purifying act of spending for the sake of Allah in His causes and do good deeds. So a person who has good character, one of the qualities, of course, is that they develop their life in a way where they have the resources to actually give charity and sadaqah and help people who are less fortunate than themselves, which allows them to do more good deeds. You don't necessarily have to have money to do good deeds, because, as you know, the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said that even a smile is charity. And when we give a smile to a person, we don't know what we do to a person who is a recipient of our smiles. We lift, we make their day brighter, as they say. He also reminds us that in every chapter of the Quran continues to strengthen the believers. And I just want to say a word about strength. You know, we look at strength, but the Prophet said that the strong man is not the wrestler who can throw and wrestle the person down, but the strong person is the one who can remain patient when they are angry, who can control their anger. That's the strong person. And this it says that the Quran in this chapter, Quran continues to strengthen the believer. You know, when we look at these two words, repairing versus preparing, you know, it takes strength to be able to understand that there are times in our lives where we have to be strong enough to repair our lives. There are times when we look at ourselves, and especially during this month of Ramadan, we are doing a lot of repairing, and it takes strength to look at yourself, to look at your soul, and see where it needs fixing or where it needs repairing. We look at our minds. We go through life, and life is rugged, and sometimes we get injured, and mentally, emotionally, and we have to have the strength to look at ourselves and see where our minds need to be repaired. So repairing takes strength. We have to look at our finances and see, during this great month of Ramadan, where we are open for all the mercies and the graces of God, that we have to do some repair work on our lives. And Ramadan, I often say, it's like taking your car into your favorite car repair shop, and your car is in need of a tune-up. It needs repairing. But for us as individuals, it takes strength to come to the realization that many of us have to do a lot of repairing on our lives in all aspects of our life. So take a look at all your life and see where it's broken, see what needs fixing, and do that repair work. But if you're constantly in the mode of repairing, if you're constantly in the mode of repairing, you never get in the mode of preparing. Because when you are preparing, everything is in order. When you're repairing, you have to go back and fix something that is broken, or fix something, and that prevents you from getting into the race, if you will, or getting into the action now. But if you're preparing, you are preparing to get into the action. You are preparing to become active. You are preparing for the opportunity. And one writer said that preparation plus opportunity equals success. So if you are repairing, if opportunities come your way, you're not prepared to take advantage of the opportunity. And so therefore your success is put on hold until you fix what is broken. But Ramadan is an opportunity for us to repair our life, so that we can get in the mode of preparing and be ready when opportunities come. So the Quran constantly gives us this strength. This is a strength. This is a strength that Allah blesses us with, so that we can continue taking advantage of the blessings and opportunities that He brings in our lives. One of the things too, the brothers and sisters, that this juice brings us to, that Allah ends this chapter by telling us that the great nature of our Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. He talks about his great nature. Allah says that He's created the Prophet, say, Fi Rasulullah uswatun hasana, that in him you have the most excellent example, and that he standeth on khuluqul alim, that he stands on an exalted standard of character. So he's a wonderful example for us, that his strength, that his nature is great, is powerful, and he's the best example for any human who wants to see what strength looks like. It's not in the muscles, but it's what's inside. That's why it says, Fi, in the Prophet, Fi Rasulullah, in him you have the most excellent example. But it also says that the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, he loved his people so much that it used to weigh on him that his people would suffer in the life to come, or suffer in the future. That means that if they don't prepare themselves, they don't prepare their iman. Our faith sometimes our faith gets broken. So our faith has to be maintained so that we can prepare for the life to come. But if we're constantly in the mode of repairing our faith, then we are weak, we're not as strong. So the Prophet was concerned that we would be making so many mistakes in our lives that we will always be in this mode of repairing and not preparing. So this is important that we understand, and I hope you appreciate the value of what I'm saying. So this juice then covers the entire chapter of Surah Jonah, which stresses Allah's power and the authenticity of the Quran, and it gives us a picture of the fate of the evildoers, the consequences of living a life where you're in constant repair. You're repairing your iman, your faith, your trust, in a mode of constantly repairing. It also discusses a major principle in Islam, the concept of Tawheed, or we could say the divine unity, that God is one, that there's only one God worthy of our worship and our prayers. And it also talks about how Allah, the Most High, how He reveals Himself to man. You know, sometimes Allah is working in our life, and because we're not listening to His whisper, His voice, we miss out. We lose out. So we have to study this so we can see how Allah reveals Himself to man. We know that He reveals Himself through the prophets and messengers of God, that He sends down guidance, like we have as Muslims in the Quran, and like the Jews had with the Torah, and the Christians had with the Injil, and many other prophets that have sent, God has sent, He sent guidance, and He reveals Himself that way. But He also reveals Himself in the creation. So we have to be aware of that as well. And this juice also says that not only how God reveals Himself to man, but how the prophets that He sent as bringers of the news, of the revelation, how they were rejected, and the workings. And then it shows how, even in spite of that, it talks about how Allah's grace was always present. So what can we learn from this juice? First of all, that the good and bad qualities of the Arabs are mentioned. Then the Muhajirun, the people who migrated with the Prophet from Mecca to Medina because they were under persecution, and the Ansar, the people of Medina who received them as their guests and as their brothers. The Prophet made them into a brotherhood. These dynamics are discussed, and we can really see the beauty of how the Prophet was able to bring the hearts of the migrants and the host of the migrants together, and how he was able to construct a community. And then it talks about a masjid. It's called Masjid al-Dirar. That is the masjid that was built in opposition to the masjid that the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, built. When he made his entrance into Medina, he built a masjid. It's called Masjid al-Quba, Masjid al-Qublatain, that because that's also the masjid, the place where the Prophet ﷺ, he was praying toward Jerusalem at one time, and it was revealed to him to turn back to the direction of the Kaaba in Mecca. Very interesting story, wonderful story, great lessons in that for us to study. So it talks about Masjid al-Dirar and the evil intentions of those who built it, because they built it in opposition to the Prophet. It talks about that, and then it talks about how Allah was he prohibited the messenger of God from praying in that masjid. Then we move on, and it talks about the qualities of those who have sold their souls for the sake of Allah. People who are willing to give up everything for the pleasure of God. And they realize that their life and their sustenance, it all rests in the hands and the mercy of God. It talks about the quality of these faithful people who are willing to give up everything for the sake of God. They trust God, that God would take care of them and provide all of their needs. And then the Prophet and the believers are prohibited from seeking forgiveness for the pagans. Now, understand, the pagans were those people who were, I would say, they were godless people, unfaithful people. They didn't have any appreciation for the believers and their qualities and their virtues and their goodness, they were out to eliminate the prophet and eliminate the faithful people as well. And so God tells us in this reading that it is forbidden to seek forgiveness for them because there was no good in them. They were evil and they were out to eliminate all of the good people. And so the end of Surah al Tawbah, it covers the relationship of man towards the Quran and the various responses to it. It covers man's relationship towards the Quran. And this is important that we take a real serious look at this, because our relationship with the Quran, if you are a believer, means that you are in relationship with the words of God. What God had revealed to Prophet Muhammad as guidance from man. So if we have a good relationship with the Quran, then that means that we are listening to the message that God has sent. I often say that the revelations of God to humanity through his prophets are like the love letters that God leaves, that he gives and sends to man, because it's out of love that he wants us to be guided aright. And if we don't have a good relationship and good guidance, then that means, as I mentioned earlier, you're going to always find yourself repairing. You're going to get broken. You're going to fall. And so you got to always do repair work instead of preparing work. Repairing work means that you're going to be behind. But preparing work means that you're looking forward and you're ready to move right now. So we can go on and on. As we close, the pagans are challenged in the Quran. The Quran goes on, talks about the story of Noah, and it recounts that story, and it recounts the story of Moses and Pharaoh, and the last moments of Pharaoh just before he drowned are related as a reminder to us all. We have to study these stories to see the lessons, the wisdom that God is trying to transmit to us, so that we can avoid and not always be in the repairing mode, but to be in the preparing mode. And that's real strength, and that exemplifies real faith. And finally, God commands the prophet to remain firm and stand fast on faith and follow the revelations until his commandment comes. So, your brothers and sisters, we have to have faith in the guidance that God has sent us, and be firm in our faith and constant in our faith. With that, I pray, Allah, that you have a wonderful day and get engrossed in reading the Quran. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.